it's time to start getting into some concrete methods of going out and passing someone's guard using the knee cut method. In my opinion, the best place for most people to start is to look at situations where you have minimal contact with your training partner. As we go through this video, you're going to see there's times we have almost no contact with an opponent and we go straight into a knee cut. There are other times where your opponent has substantial contact with you. They connect you, grabbing the legs, the ankles, getting their own underhooks on you, and we should still be able to hit a good knee cut from those kinds of situations. There's even situations where you're completely chest to chest with your opponent and you should still be able to hit a good knee cut. The versatility of the knee cut is one of its best features. It works very well where there's minimal connection. It works very well when there's maximal connection. But I believe for most people, it's good to start off with minimal connection because that's where you see the simplicity and the speed of the knee cut. One of the great virtues of knee cut guard passing is how fast it is. Okay, you can go from a situation where you have almost no contact with your opponent, bam, straight through and get to a strong passing position before they can react. So that's a great place for us to start. One of the very best methods of minimal contact leading into a knee cut is to start with collar and far side underhook. Let's have a look at how this might work in a concrete situation. Okay, we've seen already that when we go to approach an opponent, we want to, as it were, have some visual cues that measure where we should be. When our opponent's in front of us, we use the line that joins their toes as a measuring stick. Initially, I stand outside of that line. This creates a situation where you can reach and touch an opponent, but they can't connect their feet to you without first making some kind of step. And as they make that step, it's slow and awkward, and you can always control the distance, so to speak. Now, once it's time for us to move, you don't want to step to the toe line. That means when we go to hit a knee cut, you're going to end up coming up short. You don't actually pass the barrier of their hips. You want to step up to their knee line. Okay, so when they're just sitting there, there's their toe line. And there's the knee line. The knee line is a line that joins the two knees. The toe line is a line that joins the two big toes. So initially, we stand outside at a distance where we can start reaching. I don't want to have my head massively taller than my opponent. I want to be standing up straight. I want a situation where my chest is over my lead knee and I reach with the opposite side hand. So if I stand right-handed, I touch with the left. Then from here, we just step right in. And my hand is already gone through into this position. Okay? As we do this, we catch just like this, collar and elbow. So initially, we're posting. Then when we see it's time to go, we step into this position. Now all that's required is to take that knee and just cut right across our training partner's body. And we end up in this good position. As always from here, we quickly recover, taking our knee down to the floor and then walking our arm through as a crossface. When he tries to turn into us, the crossface makes it very difficult. When he tries to turn away from us, my underhook makes it difficult. And then in 3 seconds, we get our pin and our score. So, once again, training partner in front of us. Initially, we stand at the correct distance and then we step right into this position here. Our knee cuts on through. And then from this position, we just put our second knee down on the floor and work our way forward into a strong pin. So when he tries to turn in, it's very, very difficult. When he tries to turn out, it's almost as difficult in the opposite direction. From another angle, initially, we stand at a distance where we're relatively safe. And when we see the opportunity, we come in and catch. Then our knee just goes right forward and we end up right here, head down low to the mat. So when he tries to turn into you, there's sufficient weight on top, and it's very difficult. When he tries to catch your legs, it's hard. And when he tries to turn away from you, there's so much body mass over his chest, it's going to take more than 3 seconds for him to do so. Now, if I were just look in a realistic start situation, we're in front of our training partner, if his feet are close together, well, we might have to start off with some kind of lateral movement to separate our training partner's feet. And then we just go straight down and find ourselves in the perfect position to get our pass. Once again, once we've gotten our foot to the inside position, it's just that simple catch, just like so. And then we add this idea of a quick movement across our training partner's hip, knees down to the mat, and we get a good pin. You can see that the time from the beginning to the end of the execution is very small. It's hard for an opponent to work effectively against it. So initially, we open up our training partner's feet, step in, and get the movement that we're looking for. And this creates a very nice standing knee cut against even tough opponents. Now, in the previous move, we looked at the idea of a collar tie and underhook. We saw that in any situation where we have our right foot forward, if we take a collar tie on a training partner, let's rotate swiftly. If we take that collar tie, we can aggressively pull the opponent to open up the underhook on the opposite side. And this gives us a great ability to go through on a training partner, and then from here, head down, puts us in a strong finishing position where if he tries to turn into us, it's very, very difficult. If he tries to turn away from us, it's very, very difficult. And that's why this is such a strong finishing position. That head down, chest on chest posture, it's very, very powerful. However, it does come at the price that your base of support is somewhat narrow. Your base of support essentially is the width between your elbows as you go to catch your opponent around the collar and underhook. A different method of working is to rely on height, and that's to post our hand on either side of our opponent's body. So instead of grabbing the collar and hugging the guy close to us, we just use the underhook and we post on the floor so that our body stays in an arched position where, unlike the previous move, where we finish forehead down towards the floor, we're going to finish up here with a post hand on either side of his body, depending on which direction we turn towards. Now, what this gives us is a greater base of support. If your opponent went to explosively bridge over the left shoulder, you could stop him with the post. If he went to explosively bridge over this shoulder, you could stop him with a post. The drawback is you don't have quite as much tightness around his head and shoulders with your body. You don't have that tightness in like so, but you do have a much wider base of support which can move depending upon your opponent's body reactions. So let's have a look at how this might look. Everything else is pretty much the same as the previous moves. We approach a training partner and we step into position like so. We dig in their underhook, but this time when we go through, we reach for the floor like so. So this is going to be our landing position. As before, we come down to a knee. And then as before, when he tries to turn into us, it's tough. And now no matter where he goes to bridge and move, you have excellent control over your training partner. Okay? So you might ask yourself, well, which one's better? Is one better than the other? Is there one I should focus on? Should I always grab the collar or should I always post on the floor? They're both really good. There's a lot of overlap between them. But the main thing is when you choose to post on the floor, you do avoid the danger of face planting. When you hold the collar, you can face plant if you go in clumsily. So it's a little bit safer when you first start out. You don't have to worry about a heavy face plant into the mat. And secondly, you do get the ability to base out if you have a strong, explosive or bigger opponent who can turn underneath you. So when we first go in, initially we get this idea of a touch and an underhook. Then when we cut across our training partner, that's our landing position right there. Hand on the floor, underhook in place, and our shoulder and chest right down on top of our training partner's shoulder and chest on the far side. So when he goes to catch our leg, it's so tough. We just point our knee at our training partner's hip, and then we just base out on the floor. Okay? From another angle. Again, we have a training partner in front of us. Initially, we stand at a distance so it's hard for him to do anything effective. And then from here, we just step right into position. We get that initial underhook in place. My second hand just stays on my training partner's back this time. We don't grab the collar. Okay, so we hand on, second hand goes in, and we just penetrate through, and there's the initial position right there. When he tries to turn into you, your chest is right over his shoulder. It's very, very difficult. When he tries to bridge explosively out in the other direction, well, you can always just post on the floor. And your head is so much higher than your hips, it's really tough for him to get a hold of you. When he tries to catch a hold of my foot, I just point my knee at my training partner's hip. And as a result, you get a really robust landing position, okay? I would say there's another learning advantage to this method. Sometimes when people first start off using the collar and underhook method, the collar pulls you towards your opponent. And a lot of people use this to sit out. And as we've seen, that's actually a mistake. Sitting out means your opponent can explosively sit up into you and start pushing you backwards. When you post on the floor, it naturally brings your knee to the mat and lands you where you want to be. 2 knees on the floor with your knee pointing towards his hips. So now when he goes to put you back in guard, it's almost impossible. Okay? So let's have a look at this in full speed a couple of times. We stand in front of a training partner at a distance where we're relatively safe. Then we put that post hand on our training partner. If I'm standing with my right foot forward, my left hand will be my post. And then from here, we step in on our training partner and we just drive everything straight down to the mat and we get our pin position. So now without me talking, and in this way, you get a good, fast entry and finishing position, which is very, very robust. Now, we're looking at this idea of using the knee cut guard pass from minimal contact. There are many situations later on in the video where your opponent will have a considerable amount of contact to your body and you'll still have to be able to pass with a good knee cut. But the fastest methods, the ones you want to learn first, typically arise in situations where you have minimal contact with each other. So that you can just step straight in and get right into your passing. We've seen the need for an underhook on the far side, so we can combine that underhook with knee position on the near side. And it's the combination of controlling the far side shoulder and the near side hip that gives us these very strong passing positions. Then from that landing situation, we come through into a pin. Now, one of the best ways to ensure that your opponent doesn't get really good contact on you is to tie up their hands. If I just step in, he can always grab a hold of my leg. So what many people will do is they will stand at a distance where they can control a training partner's hand and then the other one just like so. So when he tries to grip us from here, we can safely stand on our training partner's toe line because I have his hands bound up. If I wasn't controlling his hands, he could just come straight in and grab a hold of me. From this position, I just take the far side and I just take my hand straight down. Then I take my head across to the opposite shoulder, my hand comes through as an underhook, and we just punch right through into that same position we've been looking at. I pressure my training partner's hand down to the floor and I pin it with my knee and shin so that when he tries to hold on to my hand, I can always take my hand out very, very easily. Then from here we put in a good tight cross face and we settle down into a good pin on top of our training partner. So once again, training partner in front of us. We stand at a distance, we can start tying up our training partner's hands. Now, very often from in here, he'll pull a hand away from you, you'll pull, and there'll be this kind of back and forth where you go to control each other. When you see the opportunities there, you just take your hand straight down. Now we just go straight on through, and we end up in that perfect knee cut position. So take this way, buddy. Once you finish the knee cut, we take our knee over the top. So if I let go, you'll have a frame hand. You can stop me. So we kill the frame hand, and then from here we go underneath, get our cross face in place, lift, and turn into a very tight pull. So once again, training partner in front of us. As we come out towards our training partner, we start with the notion of tying up our training partner's hands. And then we step right in and we flip that hand down. That's what it takes, okay? No matter how tight my opponent holds on, just doing that will always free up the hand. And then we just dig straight through underneath our training partner's arm, and we're in the perfect position to get to our pin. So once again, training partner in front, we tie up our training partner's hands. Go straight on through, and there's a good pin fetch. And this way, that hand-to-hand grip prevents your opponent getting any kind of close contact, and you can go right into your knee cuts. One of the things that really makes knee cutting so effective is the angle that you come down with your penetrating knee. Typically, this involves us standing versus a seated opponent. Because I'm standing, I have a height advantage, and that means the angle of my knee makes it very easy for my opponent, for my knee to go over my training partner's hip into that perfect position, blocking my opponent's near side hip while I control the far side shoulder. Okay, and these kinds of situations create really strong passing opportunities. Now, that was so easy because of the height advantage you have, and it's no exaggeration to say that the majority of times you perform your knee cuts, it'll probably be from a height advantage. But don't let that fool you into thinking that you can't hit knee cuts from low down on your knees. You can do it, and in fact there's an advantage to it because many of your opponents aren't expecting it. When I stand in a position like this, the minute I get under, it's pretty clear what my intentions are. And your opponent will be expecting some kind of knee cut. Very few of your opponents are expecting knee cuts when you're down here on the knees in front of your training partner because you have no height advantage. And yet you would be surprised how often you can hit an effective knee cut from these positions just by putting a leg up on the opposite side. We put our hands in a slightly different position. Instead of posting here and going right to an underhook, instead what we do is we post here on our training partner's hip. I put a hand on the hip and a hand on my training partner's knee, and I put my outside leg up just like so. Your opponent's thinking, well, why would someone go from a knee cut from this position? Because you don't have a height advantage. But just by putting my foot up, I can just surge into my training partner and jump right off the floor and get that same knee cut position, going right over my training partner's hip. And then from here, as always, we're searching for the floor, getting into a good passing position. So once again, we have a seated opponent, but this time we approach on the knees. This already gives you something of an element of surprise. Your opponent's thinking, oh, well, knee cuts are traditionally done from height, from standing position. Is there any danger of a knee cut? Probably it's low on his radar as far as possible threats go. But when we start off in these positions, all we need is this. You'll see that I put my head on the opposite side that I'm going to pass towards so that I can push in with my head and put him in that weak 45-degree position. And then I just push off this foot on the floor and we go straight on through into a strong pass. So once again, we start off in front of a training partner, down on the knees like so. Very often in these situations, I'll start by separating my training partner's feet so we can get into that good position. Then we just bring this one here up. It comes up close to my training partner's knee line. Then we just jump off it and we end up in the perfect position to go through our training partner's guard and into side control. So, looking at it a few times, we start off in front of a training partner, working down on the floor, and then we get to our initial position. Hand goes on the hip, second hand goes on the knee, and then we just cut right across our training partner into a good pass. Starting off down on the floor, pushing, pulling, the usual kind of thing, and there's our hand position. Foot comes in, that becomes the springboard to drive straight on through, and then as always we finish with our knee pointed towards the hip so when he tries to hook our leg, it's very difficult, and you end up with a beautiful pin. So this is a great way for you to use your knee cuts when you're down close to the mat on your knees rather than the traditional standing height over your opponent. Let's go into another form of knee cut guard passing, which can be very useful, specifically in situations where you're finding it very challenging to get to an underhook. Everything we've looked at so far has involved setting up the use of an underhook on one side and the knee cut on the other, so that our knee controls the near side hip and the underhook controls the far side shoulder. And that's what gives us the diagonal control for really strong finishes. Now, obvious question to ask is, what if you just can't get an underhook? What if this guy's playing with his elbow so close to his body, you're trying your best to get to an underhook and it's just not happening, it's just not working? Great question. In these cases, taking a collar tie can be a very useful thing, but not the collar tie that we saw previously in the video. So far, the collar ties we've looked at have involved opposite side of my lead foot, so that I took the underhook and the collar, and that's what enabled us to drive on through and get to our landing position. Now we're going to take the collar tie on the same side as our lead foot. This is a very different kind of guard pass. In this case, I cannot get the underhook that's faced this way. He's playing with his elbow close to the body. I cannot get an underhook on my opponent, so I take a collar tie here, and I take an elbow tie on the same side. Then when I cut, I drive through into this position. I do not sit out and go to a hip. This is a very unstable position. What I want to do is land on the flat of my shin. And this enables me to take this arm over the top and become a reverse collar tie, to say so, and the second hand to come through and block the near side hip. So that as my opponent goes to put me back in guard, my right arm shuts them out and we end up in a very strong pinning position. Let's have a look at all this again. Training partners in front of us, we go through, and right from here, we catch on to collar and elbow. Specifically because I was unable to get the preferred grip, which is the underhook. If you ever have the choice between underhook or same side collar, we always go underhook. But if that choice is not there, this is good enough. Now we go straight across and we land tall in this position. We do not land out here on a hip. This is very unstable and it takes a long time to recover from. All we want to do is get to a position like so that I can pull and get chest to chest on my training partner and then walk away from his legs. Once again, we're in front of our training partner and we're having a very hard time getting to an underhook. So we just catch right in here. Now our knee cuts across and we end up in this good position on top of our training partner. Again, training partner's in front of us. We're having a hard time getting through to an underhook. So we just catch right in here. We go sliding across, staying tall on top of our training partner. Arm comes across, second hand tucks in, and we walk around to a kind of quasi north-south position. And from here, the finishes are very strong. The great advantage of this method is it doesn't require you to get a prior underhook. So it works well in conjunction with the other methods. If you can get an underhook, always do it. But if you can't, this is a good method. We just go straight on through and down into a good pin across our training partner's side, drifting up towards north-south. Once again, in front of our training partner, and there's the initial catch into the pin. And this works very well in any situation where you're struggling to get an underhook.